We are talking about the biggest unknowns for the Chicago Bulls as the season nears. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Matas Buzelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. Make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about the biggest unknowns for the Bulls heading into this upcoming season. And so I think that the biggest unknown to start off with is going to be around the Chicago Bulls future. And so we're hoping that the future is going to show up for the present. And so I'm talking about Noa Essengue and then also to Matas Buzelis. I think that both of these players are going to need to take a major step forward this upcoming season, for this Bulls team to really turn some things around. And so just starting with Matas Buzelis, I think that one of the biggest questions that I have with Matas Buzelis is just really how strong he's gotten. I think that that was one of the things that he really needed to work on, was getting stronger as a player. And so I think that if he comes back and he's stronger this season, which it looks like that he is so far. Let's see what happens when he actually gets into game situations. But defensively, if he's much stronger, I think that he's going to be able to hold his spot a lot better defensively there and be able to fight over screens and things like that. And then on the offensive end, I just think that he's going to be able to now dish out more punishment as he's going to the rim. And I think that that's something that he's certainly going to need, especially if this team runs him out there at the power forward position. And so, Matas Buzelis definitely getting stronger is going to be one of those unknowns that we're going to find out about. And then the next thing with him is just going to be how creative his bag is, because he is going to get the basketball in his hands a lot more this season. And there's going to be a lot of stuff where I'm sure Billy Donovan is going to draw up some plays, but that there's going to be moments during the season where if they're going to give him the basketball and say, hey, go get something done. And so let's see how deep his bag is on the offensive end here. And so hopefully that is something that Matas Buzelis is ready to take a step forward with this upcoming season, because I think that the team and the direction really massively turns if he's able to take a step forward. And then I think the same can be true here with Noa Essengue, because with Noa Essengue, if he's able to really go on the same similar path as Matas Buzelis, I think that that would be just huge for this team, because I think that with what Matas Buzelis did in his rookie season, I don't think it could have gotten any better, just when you draft a rookie and you bring him along slowly. I think that as fans, we would love to have saw that probably earlier and things like that, but we really don't know what the results would have been if Billy Donovan would have just thrown him out there. And, Matas Buzelis has said that he thanked Billy Donovan for coaching him up like that. And so I think that if Noa Essengue really takes that same type of mentality and he gets the same amount of chances that, Matas Buzelis got here this last season, then I think that the Bulls are really on to something here, because now you're really talking about players that I think people would just look at and say, this is your future, really taking a huge step forward here in the present. And so I think that that is really one of the unknown questions coming into this thing. And so the next thing I think is going to be what is going to happen at the forward position. I think that there is going to be just really an incredible battle in training camp. And this is a big unknown, because you have Patrick Williams, you have Isaac Okoro, you have Dalen Terry, you have Julian Phillips, you have Ayo, you have Kevin Hurter. And it's just, how will this thing play out? Because, I think that when you look at the team, we know what they want to do offensively, but one of the things that they have got to do is they've got to stop people. And so when you look at the players that could just go out there and give you some defensive resistance, you have to start with a guy like Ayo Dosunmu. He certainly could be a player that can defend. We know that Isaac Okoro, that's the thing that he does, is defend. Patrick Williams, when he's locked in, healthy, and just there, he definitely could get it done, but he took a step back last season. And so, I think that that's going to be one of the bigger questions kind of coming in, and the unknowns is really just how is this going to play out? Because Ayo, I have him predicted, as a player that can really take a step forward towards the starting lineup, but you've got to find out what he's going to look like after being injured. Is there going to be a setback from that? Is it going to be a slow start for him? Even though I'm not betting against Ayo Dosunmu, between him and Kobe White, I never bet against those guys. And so I want to see what we're going to find out with this position battle. And then with Kevin Hurter being in the contract year, I said this several times with him, a guy that looked a lot like what he did with the Atlanta Hawks, which was awfully good out there. And so I think it's hard to put him on the bench if he's going to come back in that type of shape, in that type of mode, because I really think that he was a difference maker for the Atlanta Hawks. And I think that with his experience and things like that, and the way that he stretches the floor, it might be something that's just too good to pass up for Billy Donovan. And so I think that this is something that is a big unknown for this team going into this season as training camp nears. And so the next thing that I think is really going to be one of the bigger questions, and something that I think is going to grow even more as time goes along with this situation, and it's around Josh Giddey. And I think that really the biggest question that I have with this is that if he takes the qualifying offer, what type of, is there going to be hurt feelings involved, and how would that really impact the team chemistry? I think that a lot of the predictions and just the Bulls maybe taking a step forward and being okay as a team is just really banking on the fact that negotiations are going to go well enough to where Josh Giddey, is going to be okay with being here and things like that. And so I think that if he takes the qualifying offer, man, I could see that, man, there could be some feelings hurt there, and that maybe could impact the way that the chemistry of the team is. And then, I just think that that's probably one of the bigger storylines to think about, is just really what is he going to be thinking when he comes off these negotiations? Because even if they do work out like a long-term type of deal or something like that, and it's not something that he necessarily wanted, is he going to be okay with that? And so I think the team chemistry with Josh Giddey coming back, let's see how that plays out, once that scenario gets taken care of. And lastly, just looking at just the team in general and just sticking a little bit more with the team chemistry and stuff like that, I think that when I look at Billy Donovan and just really the shift that he made last season with this up-tempo style, I think that the team was able to really they adapted very well to that. We had heard that they had gone to a shorter shot clock in the training camp or whatnot. And so the team really adjusted to that, and they were able to really adapt with the reads and stuff like that throughout the season. And it really showed towards the end of the season. And so I want to see, does this team really build off of what they did last season in this up-tempo style? Are they a lot more better as far as cutting down the turnovers and getting more efficient out of the system that way? I think that that's going to be really a huge question that we're not going to find out until we get into the season, training camp or whatnot. And I think the next thing too is this defensively. How can Billy Donovan help to coach this thing up better? Because you do add Isaac Okoro, you add Ayo Dosunmu. And so either way you look at it, you have two defenders. You have two guys that can definitely defend. And Patrick Williams, again, if he comes back and he's locked in, he has shown that he can be a defender here. So you do have, three players that are definitely capable of going out there and playing some defense. Now, the question is, how do you mix that in with everybody else? And so just thinking about some of the zone principles that Billy Donovan kind of ran out there with his team and stuff like that, how do you scheme that up? Obviously, things can change. If you go out there and you maybe make a trade or something like that, you could still maybe add a free agent, which I don't see that happening. But you have got to find a way to get better defensively if you're going to take a step forward and get out of the play-in situation that you have been in. You just have to do something there, and defense is going to be critical for this team. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here, as far as the biggest unknowns coming in, just going back and recapping, you guys let me know, is it any of the things that I mentioned, or is it something else? Because I said, number one, it's going to be Josh Giddey, and really the response that you're going to get just from a chemistry standpoint after the negotiations. Because like I said, if he comes in on a qualifying offer, couldn't imagine he's going to be very happy there. And then there's also the possibility that the deal does get done, but still maybe he's not happy with the way things went and everything else. Like, we won't know until the deal gets done, and then we actually hear from Josh Giddey. And so I think that is one of the question marks coming into this thing. The next thing, going back to Billy Donovan, just talking about his playing style, with the up-tempo stuff, do the Bulls really take off from where they were last year? And can he draw up some more defensive schemes and just really utilize some other players out there that can help us defensively? Because I didn't even mention Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry, who are going to be in that forward battle, but also too, they could be utilized as some good defensive pieces as well with their athleticism and stuff like that. And so let's see if Billy Donovan is going to use those guys out there along with a guy like Jalen Smith. And so the next thing that I had mentioned here was just the forward battle. And so again, you have Dalen Terry, you have Julian Phillips, Patrick Williams, you have Kevin Hurter, Ayo Dosunmu. They're all going to be fighting for that forward position out there, along with Isaac Okoro, if I did mention that. And so, I think that that's going to be an interesting question that we're going to find out about. And then lastly, just can our future show up for the present? And so I think that Matas Buzelis, certainly a future piece, started to definitely take a huge step in the right direction last season. Let's see if he continues that. And then with Noa Essengue, it would be major for this team if he can mimic a lot of what Matas Buzelis did a season ago. I think that really would somewhat justify the plan and the path that AK and the front office is on. And so I think also too, that really also kind of turns the cards a little bit more as to how you would want to continue to build out this team. And so I think that is a big question. But you guys let me know if it's any of the questions that I kind of threw out there, or if there's something else that you guys have as far as the biggest unknowns as the season nears. And remember too, that the training camp is actually set for September the 9th. And so the season is really seriously right around the corner. And so you guys let me know. And as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.